James says, you need an asset czar. This video series is for anybody interested in facilities and asset management. The videos will cover all aspects of facilities and asset management, including the people or roles, the processes, and the products that you deal with on a day-to-day basis within your organization. Hopefully, the videos will get you thinking and get you questioning how you do business today and how you might be able to do business tomorrow. Hopefully it'll have an immediate impact on you and your organization, and if nothing else, get you discussing the topics that we cover in each one of these videos. Sound interesting? Then watch. Welcome to James Says.
Who is James? James has almost 20 years of asset management experience in the areas of property management, space management, operations and maintenance, capital planning and project management, and energy. He has worked in both facilities organizations and the software industry with proven results in both. Combining both experience and innovation, James always looks to push the status quo to take your organization to the next level. Are your processes clunky? Do you have people in the wrong role? Does your software answer the questions that matter? Ask James, and maybe it will be the next topic for James Says.
So what's the first topic? It's a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart. It's that of the asset czar. The asset czar is a role that you should have within your facilities organization. What is an asset czar, other than a fun, outrageous title for a new role that you've never heard of? Well, quite simply, in my mind, an asset czar should be responsible for maintaining the standards and the integrity of all your asset data. Now, I know what you're going to say. But James, I already have tons of people performing that role. I have various people throughout my organization that are updating asset data all the time. You really have nobody maintaining or riding herd on all your asset data. That's why I think there should be someone whose sole job is to maintain that data. So in the definition of asset czar, I said three very important things. I said asset, I said data standard, and I said data integrity. Let's talk about each one of those. So asset means a lot of things to different people, but from a facilities and asset management perspective, assets are everything within your buildings, outside your buildings, and anywhere really in your entire enterprise. It's not just building equipment. It's not just preventive maintenance equipment that you have to perform operations and tasks on. It's not just equipment that utilities happens to have in their BAS system. It's all of that and more. A complete inventory should include everything from your vehicles to chillers in your central plant. It should include park benches, dumpsters, recycling bins, windows, lights, AV equipment, desks, chairs. All those are assets. All of those should be in a complete inventory. If you have a software system that's managing your facilities organization and you don't have a complete inventory that covers all those assets, you're not done yet. The next part of the asset czar job is the data standard. How do we develop a data standard? What are they actually maintaining when we talk about an asset data standard? Well, it's really easy typically for you to conceptualize, I want to have a certain specification for how I build buildings, or I want to use certain colors on my website, or I want to do certain things, build to a certain tolerance level, whatever it may be. Within your organization, you probably have tons of standards already. We want to have that same sort of specificity when it comes to an asset data standard. And so how do you establish it? A good way to start is to figure out what you want to know. What you want to know about your assets. What questions do people ask all the time? What sort of reports would be really helpful to management so that they can make better decisions, right? It's hard to manage when you really don't have the data to back up the decisions that you're making. The other thing to consider is metrics. Are there certain metrics related to the various different types of assets that could be stored in this inventory that would make it easy for you to measure how you're doing within your organization. All those should blend together and build the data standard. The data standard should come from all areas of your organization as well. You should be pulling from different departments. Pull from operations and maintenance, pull from condition assessment, pull from construction, capital planning, from energy, from utilities, from all these different areas. They should all have input as to what this data standard should be and how the data standard should be set up and maintained. So now let's break it down into what actually are we building when we say data standard. Well, typically you start out with the asset basics. I want to have a picture of the asset. I want to have the model, make, manufacturer, serial number, the basic information that any asset would have, whether it's a window or an emergency door or an air handler, right? Each one of those you should have at least the asset basics, and then from there determine what sort of groupings of assets you would want. And this is where the level of detail comes in. So for a emergency door, for example, I may not have an excruciating level of detail of all the different attributes I want to track for those type of assets. But for something like a boiler, maybe I would. Once you get your data standard together, once you figure out how you're going to classify your different assets into what we call asset groups, and then you determine what the data standards should be, that's when you're ready to get started with the job and maintaining your asset data. Data integrity. Now this is a tough one, especially if the AssetCzar isn't involved in all aspects of your facilities organization. So this comes down to your standard operating procedures, or SOPs. Every time you purchase a new piece of equipment, especially large equipment, every time that you go out and perform some sort of repair that involves replacing something, every time that you work with your condition assessment group to establish the condition of your facilities, every time you do a renovation, every time you do construction, the AssetCzar should be present in each one of those processes. Don't get me wrong. That's not to say that AssetCzar is responsible for all data entry for all assets and maintaining and editing every single value. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the AssetCzar is responsible for making sure everyone adheres to the standard. As soon as the first person, especially management, realizes that they got a report where the data related to a certain asset or grouping of assets is inaccurate, they're never going to trust anything that comes again, right? It's going to take a while before you actually build up that trust again. Once the standard's established, once you have a high level of data integrity, we know all the assets that we need to track, then it's just a matter of filling in the holes. What assets are we missing to complete our inventory? What sort of standards have we not established yet or haven't agreed upon yet, more likely? And what sort of data elements are we missing if we agree that that is the data standard for that particular grouping of assets? So this is a long process. This isn't something that you're going to snap your fingers and all of a sudden, poof, you have an AssetCzar and all your data is accurate overnight. This takes a while, and it takes a little bit of practice, especially for the rest of the organization to realize they want to funnel as much as they can through this AssetCzar to make sure that everything is clean and correct. But don't be that organization that just waits on it and never really gets started because it just seems insurmountable. Don't be that organization who can't answer the important questions, who can't provide metrics and has no idea how many assets are even in their enterprise, or worse yet, has an asset that fails at a critical moment, maybe when a research experiment is happening or you potentially flood something or lose lots of money just because you didn't know that asset existed. It wasn't in your inventory. Don't be that organization. Get the AssetCzar in place. So whether you're just getting started or whether you've been doing this for years and feel like you have a pretty good handle on it, realize the importance of this role. Asset data is the basis for all reports, all information, everything that you might want to get out of a facilities management organization. Right? This is important stuff. Get it established, because James says you need an AssetCzar.